Good morning, my dear students, and this is the first chapter. Now I am here with the terms resources. In this particular video, I am going to teach you what are the various resources, what are its importance, and what is the meaning of the resources. So to get my further videos, you have to do one thing. You can subscribe my YouTube channels. My YouTube channel is Raj Sahu KLZ. So whenever I update new videos, you can also avail these videos from my YouTube channels. So there is an icon, there is a bell icon. You have to press that bell icon. It will reminds you that you are having the new videos in future. Now once again, so good morning, this is Raj and you are learning SST and particular a chapter related to resources of India. So my dear students, before understand the meaning of the resources, I would like to tell you, I would like to throw some light over the problems. If we come to know what are the problems, definitely that we can understand very easily the meaning of the resources. Problem is what like that. In this very hard time, in this very epidemic time, we have the problems. You can understand that this is the time when we are locked down completely in our houses. So this is the problem. Now, how can we get more things? How can we get benefited from these problems, and how can we get the solution of these problems? That we have to maintain the rules and regulation, we have to decorum. That is what solution. So we can say what are the resources? Resources are the aspects that gives us the solution of that particular problem. So resources are all those aspects which facilitate the satisfactions of human wants to help solve the problems. Now I told you that it is what those aspects. Aspects means yes, come on, give me any answer. Aspects means that the scope, it has that scopes. If we have the scopes to facilitate, exactly, there is a word facilitate. Facilitate means to give an opportunity to find out the solution. So resources are those aspects which facilitates the human bonds. Human bonds means, suppose if we need water, if we are feeling hungry or we are feeling thirsty, so what do we need? We need food and water, and these are the problems. And so the resources are there, that means water is available, food is available, and those resources facilitates our need. That is what resources. So in journals we can say the resources are those aspects which facilitates the human bonds to help out the problems. So you can understand what the meaning of the resources. Well done. You just revise with me. What are the resources? Yeah, please speak with me. Resources are okay, those aspects, okay, which exactly facilitates of human bonds to help solving out the problems. Exactly. Okay. In primitive times, the people or the early people, they were completely dependent on the natures. So for fulfilling their needs, they acquired the materials from the natures. Exactly. Yeah, they required the material, they obtained the material from the nature. So we can say the things which are available around us are the resources, like land, water, air, yeah, soil, forest, material. All these things are resources. So we can say there are the two types of the resources in general sense. One is natural resources, the resources which are provided by the nature itself. Second thing, the artificial resources or the man-made resources. To make those resources be used are certain technology. So the part of the technology is also important in the terms of the resources. Now I'm just going to show you the exact meaning or the definition of the resources and a definitions of a thinker, of a man who has given a wonderful definition of the resources. So my dear students, you can see there is a definition of the resources, that resources are those aspects which facilitate the satisfaction of human wants or help to solve the problems. You can learn this definition very easily for the examination purpose. It is very important. Okay, so you can you can give the various examples related to the resources. So here the resources are those aspects which facilitate the satisfaction of human wants or help to solve the problems. Now I'm showing you the another definition which is given by a thinker, that the definition which is very much authentic. So usually we can see the resources are natural. Here there is a thinker whose name is McNeil PE. He said that natural resources are those resources which are provided by the nature and are useful to the man. The main thing is that those resources are useful to man or not. If it is not being used by the man, there is that things cannot be said resources. If it is being used by the people, if it is used for the like the welfare of the human beings, that is what resources. If it is lying idly, there is no use of that particular thing, that we can't say that it's a resource. With this diagram you can understand that the natural resources, that we are surrounded by the various resources, and all these resources are natural. They are given by nature. Here see the land, soil, water, forest, wildlife, minerals, power, air. So as you know that we are surrounded by these resources, that we have a good land, we have soil, we have water, yes, we have forest, wildlife, minerals, power and air. All these things are the natural resources. We are benefited with all these things. So you understood that the resources are those various aspects which facilitate us to satisfy the human needs. And I also showed you that diagram, and the particular diagram you came to know that we are literally surrounded by those resources. Now the thing is that whether we are having the benefit of those things, suppose the land is there and we are utilizing that land to make a building, to I should say to grow the crops or the various use. We have the water to drink, we have air to breathe, and so many things are there that are being used for the satisfaction of the human wants. Now I'm just going to tell you what are the classification of the resources. That means how can we divide the resources in the various parts. So we can divide the resources, we can classify the resources on the basis of ownership, on the basis of availability, on the basis of distribution, and on the basis of uses. So there are the four categories, there are the four various aspects or the classes in which we can divide are the resources. With this classification of resources diagram, you can easily understand that it is divided into four categories, that is the ownership, availability, distribution and the uses. You can also note it down. The resources can be classified into four groups: the ownership, availability, distributions and uses. Now come to ownership. That means we are going to study the resources which have been classified on the basis of ownership. So here you can see, on the basis of the ownership, we can further divide the resources into three parts. That means there are the three kinds of the resources. First one is personal resources, second is national resources and third one is world resources. So under the personal resources, that means the things which are owned by individual, that is what personal resources. That means you have that mobile, you are living your home, your property is there, your health is there, that is what the personal resources. That means you have 100% rights on that property or the health, that is what the personal resources. So with the help of these personal resources like the property or the health, we can satisfy our the needs and all. Now another one is what? Natural resources. So under this category, natural resources, we have the wealth of our nations. That means what is the public property? That public property is what? National, like the railways, roads, okay, and the dam or the other things, these comes in a public property, that is the wealth of a nation. Similarly, the military powers, that we have the military power, we have the three wings. First one is air wing, second is like navy, third is what? Army. So all these military powers come into the national resources. Then the patriotism, that we have the feeling to other nations, that we ought to respect our national anthem, we ought to respect our national emblems. That is what the patriotism, that we are showing our gratitude towards our land, that is what the patriotism. So three things come in the national resources. First one is the wealth of nations, second is military power, third is patriotism. And as far as the world resources concerned, that is what? Physical or biological elements of the world for the welfare of mankind. What are the things which are going to be conducted for the physical or biological, only for the welfare of the mankind. So all these things come in the like the world resources. So under this ownership category, we have the three kinds of the resources. First one is the personal resources, second is what? National resources, and third is world resources. So please speak with me. On the basis of ownership, how many kinds of the resources are there? Yeah, on the basis of ownership, we have the three kinds of the resources. First is personal resources, very good. Second is national resources, and third is world resources. And you can also give examples of personal resources. You can find these questions in like MCQs or like the matchings or the fill in the blanks. So in the personal resources, we have an example of the property or the health, and national resources, wealth of nations, military power, patriotism, and the world resources, any physical or biological thing that is which are used only for the welfare of mankind. Now come to the second base, that is the availability, the resources which are available on the basis of the ability. So there are the four kinds of the resources, that is the renewable resources, non-renewable resources, cyclable resources, and inexhaustible resources. So renewable resources, that means the natural resources which can be renewed after sometimes. There are the examples of agricultural land. When we use the agricultural land, so twice or the thrice it become a barren. Now we can reuse this land by leaving for some periods. So that is what renewable resources. That non-renewable resources, once we use these resources, we can't get a second time, like a petrol, coal or etc. These are the limited resources. Once we use the all petroleum product or the whole coal's substance. So we do not have these resources, we will not get the resources in the future. That is what non-renewable resources. So first is what renewable resources that can be renewed after some times, like agricultural land. Second one is what non-renewable resources, once it is used it can't be get further for the future use. That is what petrol and the coal. So these resources are also known as limited resources. See, there is another part of this resource is what cyclable resources. Cyclable, that is the minerals like the iron or copper. See my ring. If I want to change this ring, so we can recycle it. That is what recyclable resources. So all the metals like iron or the copper can be recycled. So we can say these resources are what recycled resources. Then another part of this resources on the basis of the ability, that is what inexhaustible resources. Inexhaustible resources, that means ever resources the God has given, the nature has given these resources like a solar energy and the water. Such resources are not going to be finished. So that is a solar energy and water. So our government also emphasizes to use or enhance the solar energy, also solar resources, because these resources are inexhaustible resources. So on the basis of the ability, we have the four kinds of the resources. First one is the renewable resources, second is non-renewable resources, third is recyclable resources, and fourth is inexhaustible resources. Now on the basis of the distribution, we can find the resources in four categories, that is easily available resources, common available resources, rarely available resources, or single resources. So easily available resources, that we do not have to put much efforts to get these resources, like the oxygen in the air, that we are inhaling the oxygens, we are breathing. So it is very easily available resources, we do not have to put any efforts to get oxygen. So this is what easily available resources. Then second one is common available resources. It's like a soil or tillable lands. Soil, we can find the soil everywhere. Tillable land means that is land which is like the appropriate for the farming. So that is what tillable land. And third one is what rarely available resources. Rarely means very hardly we can find the resources like the coal, gold, uranium, and etc. The gold is very precious metal, coal is also very precious, and uranium is very precious. So these resources are available very very little amount. So we can say these are the rarely available resources. And last one is what single resources. So at one or the two places in the world we get these resources, that is a chrolite, that is only available in Greenland, it is found in the Greenland. So on the basis of distributions, we have categorized the resources into four categories, that is what easily available resources, common available resources, rarely available resources, and single resources. Now on the basis of uses, we can learn the resources, that is what unused resources, unusable resources, potential resources, and latent resources. So come to the unused resource. Unused resource, these resources are available under the ground. It is available, but we didn't get these resources, we didn't use these resources till now. That is why we can say this is what unused resources. So when the resources are not in use, we can say when the resources are not in use, they are called unused resources. Like the deposit of certain minerals is not, but they are not be extracted and used. That is why we can say that is what unused resources. Second one is what unusable resources. Unusable resources which cannot be used further even with the present day techniques are unusable resources, that we have the technology but it is not like being very much important. So we can say the unusable resources which cannot be used further even with the present day technology, but we need the further technology for that. There is third kinds of the resources under the categories of the resource, that is what potential resources. That means we can use these resources in the future. There are some resources which are known but are not in use due to lack of the technology or the planning. Possibly they may be used in the near future, are known as the potential resources. We can also give an example like the running water may be used for the irrigation by the construction a canal. Similarly, dams may be constructed to the produce electricity. That is why we can say this is what the potential resources, that in the future we can utilize such resources in very wide manner. Now there is very important that the latent resources, sometimes it also has been asked in the paper ki just explain, just give the definition of the latent resources. So latent resources here which are unknown to man. Unknown to man. Unknown to man means there are the many resources which have been unknown to the man. If the properties and the utility of a resource is not known, it is called latent resources. Like the petroleum was a latent resources until its properties and uses are not known to the man. So such kind of resources are like the latent resources. So you usually understood that we have classified the resources into four categories on the basis of ownership, availability, distribution and uses. 3, 2, 1. So you understood easily that we had gone through about the definition of the resources. We studied about the classification of the resources. We understood the meaning of the resources. So whenever you people are asked what the exact meaning of the resources, you have to just think about the problem. Once we understood the problem, that this is are the problem, now how can we get out the solution of that problem? That we have to utilize the resources. So you proceeded with the resources. So in the next video I just start another chapter, that is the chapter will be the same but the topic is related to the soil. But before leaving this video, there is an assignment for you that this is not your only the task you just listen to me and watch my video and leave it to, you have to keep in the dustbin. No, there is an assignment, and after every video you will have my assignment. You have to solve those questions, you have to write those questions in your rough notebooks, and you have to start how can we give the like the answer of that particular question. Because in examination it happens several times that whatever the things the questions which are given in a book may not come in like the exam, but some related questions may come in your exam. So you should have that capability to write the answer properly. So before leaving this video, there are some question as an assignment. So you just note it down, these questions. Please note it down. So this is your assignment. You have to answer these questions in your rough notebook. The first question is, in how many types can we divide resources? Second is, what is latent resource? And third question is, what is the importance of resources for humans? So now this is the time that we have to take leave from you peoples, and tomorrow we will have with another video, that is the part 2. And the topic will be the soil, the formation of the soils and of the types of the soils, and where are such soils found. So good luck, tata, bye bye, keep safe, thank you.